Is it, here's one, is it the least convincing romantic element since Anakin and Padme?
That's not bad, is it? Yeah, it's so odd.
The princesses, I'm pretty sure in the first movie, Bill doesn't say a single word to his princess before they get together. And I'm almost certain that their names aren't mentioned until the climax of Bogus Journey, where you find out they actually have names and aren't just called princesses.
Or babes.
Or babes.
This was written by Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon. Now, they created the characters of Bill and Ted in an improv class at UCLA in the early 80s, forming the characters of Bill and Ted as like two sort of geeky 14-year-old guys who know nothing about history, and they're just trying to talk about history. And Ted's dad keeps interrupting them. Funny. It
is funny.
It is. I can imagine it was really funny. They eventually write a sketch, which is called Bill and Ted's Time Van. They expand that to a script. I read somewhere, but did not corroborate because of laziness, that they wrote the script by hand. And then I was going to make a joke about, oh, guys, technology is the 80s. I was like, but it was the 80s. Yeah. And you forget only pens.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
Or typewriters.
Or a typewriter, but you might as well write it by hand.
But I think computers were definitely in the realm of word processing in the 80s.
See, there you go. But why not write? Yeah, so just sit down and write it out by hand.
Fits with the pitch. You said it was all about the pitch. Bill and Ted, they wouldn't know how to use a word processor, so it's
true. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. So such a good point.
Chris Matheson, didn't realise, was the son of, or is the son of, a legendary horror and sci-fi author, Richard Matheson.
Yes.
I only mention this because I didn't realise that Duel, one of my favourite movies, was actually a short story by him, and he adapted that into the screenplay for Duel.
Well, apparently his dad said to him, because the script went through quite a lot of versions, and one of the versions, it was very just like sketchy. And in one of the versions, Bill and Ted go back through history, but become responsible for like all of mankind's woes. So the plague, war, the Titanic, and so hilariously like cause all these troubles. But logically, you then run into a problem where these really lovable guys are responsible for the Holocaust. So you want to pull back from that. And so
a lot of deaths.
Yeah. And it starts to not be cute, I guess. So, and apparently his dad said, you should do a full script and maybe let's think about making it not so sad.
There was a version where the character of Napoleon, because they ended up in Nazi Germany and they brought back Adolf Hitler to San Dimas, and he was in the Napoleon role and running amok while they were off time travelling. And Solomon does confirm that this became problematic.
Sure.
And so they replaced him. But the other ones that they mention, in the spec script, there was them visiting Julius Caesar and ending up causing his death.
Right.
And befriending a caveman in the prehistoric age and helping him invent fire so they could light up a joint.
That's pretty funny.
Now,
Rufus was different in the original script. So Rufus, played by George Carlin, he drove a time van in one of the iterations of the script, and I believe he had a dog called Dog Rufus. Which is fucking brilliant. But, I mean, it might not be for this reason, but obviously a time van, and then you've had the DeLorean fairly recently, so it's a bit too similar. So we end up with a phone booth.
Yep.
And speaking of, I've described the Bill and Ted as like puppies, but I've stolen that from the director, Stephen Herrick, who would frequently tell them to basically act more like dogs. So you need to be more puppy-like. We need more puppy factor when directing them. And so to try and get Alex Winters and Keanu Reeves' energy bouncing from scene to scene and place to place to be completely lovable. And I think describing them as puppies is perfect because that is exactly what they are.
It is. Yeah. Casting, there were a few different people who they considered for various roles. Apparently, Stephen Herrick screened between 200 and 300 actors for the main roles, which is a hell of a lot. Pauly Shore was one of them, Biodome. He was considered for the role of Ted. And then for Bill, River Phoenix, Sean Penn, and Brendan Fraser were all in. We're all in the running at one point. And you mentioned George Carlin being cast at the 11th hour as Rufus. Eddie Van Halen, obviously because he gets a lot of mentions in the movie, was asked. That was a no. Others include Ringo Starr.
That's so strange.
Charlie Sheen.
Perfect.
Sean Connery.
Good.
And Roger Daltrey. Sort of a really interesting mix.
The next bit I want to talk about, because I'd completely forgotten about it, and I think it's one of the funniest things in here, is "Hi, Missy, I mean Mom," which is a very funny line.
Hi, Bill. Want a ride?
Sure, Missy. I mean Mom.
But Missy is a young woman who Bill and Ted remember from their school days.
Yeah, she was a senior while they were freshmen.
I don't know what that means.
Right.
But Missy is married to
Ted's dad.
Bill's dad.
Bill's dad, yeah.
Bill's dad.
Yeah, wrong movie, you're right.
And
yeah.
Bill's dad is like a rumpled, academic-looking type man, full cardigans, all the rest of it. But he's very much enthralled by his young bride. And there's just this section where he gives Bill money to get out of the house so that he can have sex with his young bride in his son's room.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of strange stuff going in there. I wrote, don't remember having sex in kids' room, creepy.
Exactly.
Now your dad's going for it in your own room. Shut up, Ted. Your stepmom is cute, though. Shut up, Ted. Remember when I asked her to the prom? Shut up, Ted!
We'll come on to when we talk about Bogus Journey because this is what it does. And I'm wondering if the lesson was learned here. We don't have an enemy chasing them. So all we've got is Bill and Ted moving, nothing wrong with this, but like moving from time period to time period. And there's no, the ticking clock, literally, is the history test. But there's no peril because there's no enemy. The enemy is just, you will fail your history test. And that's not a visible thing.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Like if they'd gone to London 1888 and Jack the Ripper had grabbed onto the booth and he was in the circuits of time.
Wait till he
them.
sees those two princesses. He's going to slice them right up.
Oh, God, yeah.
Oh, no, did you say that before we started recording, how much you love water parks? I can't remember.
Yeah, that was before we started.
Oh, sorry.
This whole sequence, I was giddy with excitement. I was like, there was one just outside Doncaster called the Richard Dunn Centre, which is where we used to go.
Glamour.
I know, right? It's like, of all the names, maybe...
It wasn't called, like, Splash Landings.
Maybe he was a very famous Doncasterian and he...
Bought a water park.
I don't know, maybe he discovered...
He must have done. Because everyone else round that board was going, we really want to call it Tropical Waves.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's Richard Dunn or nothing.
Splash Factory! Yeah.
It's called the Richard Dunn
It was called the Richard Dunn Centre.
But also, actually, the historical detail that is paid to the historical figures is quite a cute touch, I think. So when Beethoven when they come to get him, Bill and Ted, in the phone booth, all of Beethoven's guests are like, oh, what the fuck is going on? Anyway, Beethoven was deaf, wasn't he? So when the phone booth comes, he doesn't look up or he carries on doing what he's doing because he was deaf.
Right.
So he wouldn't necessarily have heard this phone box from the future.
That's clever.
Yeah, but it's nice attention to detail.
My best scene is the montage in the mall where Beethoven is playing the keyboards because it's a kick-ass tune. Genghis Khan is fighting security. I think Joan of Arc teaching aerobics is very funny. Love a montage set to some awesome music. That's the best.
Great. My best scene is when they briefly go to the future and we meet the three most important people in the world and they're all doing the air guitar strum really slowly and solemnly. Yeah. Only because it just took me, I just had a moment where I was like, what is this film? Like, imagine if you walked in the middle of that, like, what you're watching? Like, it's just really hard to explain. But a good out-of-body moment.
Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes!
Good one, dude.
The original ending. Now, have I got this right? The original ending, it was the same thing, but just a bit more low key.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Yeah,
they were in a classroom, but it didn't feel big enough. So they've got this sort of huge stage show set up.
Yeah, Alex Winter says it's Keanu and I sitting on the desk, literally presenting a really boring history lesson to a small, ugly suburban classroom. So it's visually really ugly. It had no scale at all. It was an audience of like 9 and there wasn't much room for interplay. And then, which I do like, we go to the prom with our princesses.
Yeah.
Because I think a little more princess character building might have been nice. It wouldn't have happened. But I like a prom. I'm a big fan of a prom.
I do. End on a dance.
You can see the shots on the internet of us from that scene where we're wearing tuxedos with shorts, but it just didn't play. That is your lot. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure is done. Also, some chat about water slides.
Thanks, Rufus. Catch you later, Bill and Ted. That was very good.